It's midnight and you're watching Nightline with me, Preetha Manivanan, your top stories. Public transport's given green light to operate in full capacity. And Malaysia will not be sending Hajj pilgrims this year. Good morning. All public transport services, including flights and express buses, as well as e-hailing services and private vehicles, are now allowed to operate at full capacity under the Recovery MCO. However, Senior Minister for Security, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said strict standard operating procedures, SOPs, must be adhered to by both drivers and passengers. Datuk Sri Ismail said the meeting of the Special Ministerial Committee on the Implementation of MCO also agreed to allow the e-hailing, taxi and express bus services to operate without any time limit. Cashless payment is encouraged, while passengers have to download the My Sejahtera app to enable contact tracing.
Pemakaian topeng muka adalah diwajibkan kepada semua penumpang dan juga pemandu. Dan mereka juga perlu membuat sanitasi setelah habis beroperasi dan digalakkan membuat sanitasi selepas menurunkan penumpang dan sebelum membawa penumpang yang baru.
Nevertheless, despite being allowed to operate at full capacity, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri reminded all public transport service providers to ensure that their passengers could still observe social distancing. He added private vehicle owners are now also allowed to have non-family members as their passengers. Meanwhile, the decision to do away with social distancing on board aircrafts was made after taking into account international standards and guidelines of the International Air Transport Association, IATA. Transport Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Wee Ka Siong said the IATA guidelines do not require social distancing, but states clear procedures such as health screenings, including taking body temperatures, wearing face masks, and procedures to be performed by the crew before and after a flight. According to Datuk Sri Dr. Wee, Malaysia was previously among the countries that carried out social distancing aboard aircrafts during the COVID-19 pandemic, while there were countries that carried it out conditionally at a distance of less than a metre. He said the Ministry of Transport had numerous discussions with the Ministry of Health and the National Security Council, where it was decided to do away with social distancing on board aircrafts in accordance with international standards. Datuk Sri Dr. Wee hoped that airlines could reduce ticket prices that were reported to have climbed abruptly prior to this, with the cancellation of social distancing on board aircrafts. There will be no Hajj pilgrimage for Malaysian Muslims this year. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department in charge of Islamic Affairs, Datuk Sri Zulkifli Muhammad Al-Bakri, said the move to defer it was made due to the concerns over the COVID-19 pandemic. In announcing the matter on Thursday, Datuk Sri Zulkifli said the decision received the consent of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah. This was following a briefing by the Health Ministry and Tabung Haji, as well as a discussion by the Special Muzakarah Committee under the National Council for Islamic Religious Affairs on June 9.
Saya mengharapkan semua bakal haji untuk bersabar dan redha dengan keputusan ini. Sehubungan itu, Tabung Haji akan mengeluarkan kenyataan resmi dan soalan lazim FAQ berkaitan urusan penangguhan ibadat haji bagi musim haji 1441 Hijrah sejurus selepas sidang media ini.
He also added that he handed over the official letter to Saudi Arabia's ambassador to Malaysia, Datuk Dr. Mahmood Hussein Said Khatan, on Wednesday to notify the kingdom's Hajj and Umrah Ministry on Malaysia's decision to postpone the pilgrimage this year. Apart from Malaysia, other countries that have decided to skip the Hajj pilgrimage include Indonesia, Singapore, Cambodia, Thailand and Brunei. In another development, Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli said Friday prayers and other congregational prayers in green zones within the federal territories will resume on June 12th, but only at 1/3 the capacity of the respective mosques or suraus prayer hall. Other restrictions for mosque and surau operation will also be eased further, but strict SOPs must be adhered to by members of the congregation. At a separate event earlier, the minister also revealed that the SOP for the upcoming Aidil-Adha celebration, including for the sacrificial ritual, is still being discussed and will be announced soon once it has been tabled to the cabinet for approval. Meanwhile, Tabung Haji TH in a statement on Thursday said payments that have already been made for Hajj this year will be fully refunded into the pilgrims' accounts. It added that the amount will also be eligible for this year's profit distribution and assured that all the 2020 Hajj pilgrims will be given priority to perform Hajj next year. Its Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Datuk Nik Muhammad Hasyuddin Yusof, stated that those who were scheduled to go for Hajj in 2021 will also get the opportunity to perform their pilgrimage subject to availability based on the quota for the year. He also said the decision to defer pilgrimage for some 31,600 Malaysian pilgrims showed the government's concern for the safety and well-being for the people. Now, the Health Director General said the country needs to go through 28 consecutive days of no new COVID-19 cases before it is able to declare itself free of the virus. In his daily press briefing, Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said this is based on the 2 14-day cycles used to monitor the virus's presence in an individual who is being quarantined.
Kita lihat sekarang ni, kalau kita tamatkan satu kluster, kita memakan masa tempoh 28 hari pemantauan, iaitu 2 putaran inkubasi. Jadi kalau kita pakai pemantauan dan pengawasan untuk tempoh 28 hari, bermaksud kalau kita tak ada kes sifar untuk tempoh 28 hari, kita akan isytiharkan bebas daripada COVID-19.
Malaysia also recorded 31 new cases in the last 24 hours. 11 of them were imported cases, meaning patients were infected overseas, while 20 others were local transmissions. Of the local cases, 19 were foreigners, with 1 Malaysian who is from the toughest cluster in Selangor. For the foreigners, they were detected from 3 known clusters, except 1 that was detected through screenings for foreign workers. Sabah Infrastructure Development Minister Datuk Peter Anthony pleaded not guilty at the Kota Kinabalu Special Corruption Court on Thursday to 5 counts of money laundering involving 8.75 million ringgit. He made the plea after the charges were read out to him before Judge Abu Bakar Manat, who set August 4th for case remention. All the charges were framed under the Anti-Money Laundering and Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act. On the first 2 counts, Datuk Peter was charged with directly engaging in the transactions involving proceeds of unlawful activity by instructing a certain individual to transfer 3.75 million ringgit from the bank account belonging to Budiman Juta Sendirian Berhad to the bank account of Wondrous Enterprise Sendirian Berhad. For the other 3 charges, he was accused of receiving 5 million ringgit of unlawful proceeds from Budiman Juta Sendirian Berhad, which were transferred into the account of Asli Jati Engineering Sendirian Berhad, a company which he owned. He was alleged to have committed the offences between July 25th, 2014 and January 18th, 2014. If convicted, he faces imprisonment of up to 15 years and a maximum 5 million ringgit fine or 5 times the sum of illicit proceeds from the unlawful activity, whichever is higher. The court allowed the accused 500,000 ringgit bail with 2 local sureties and ordered for his passport to be surrendered to the court. He was also required to report to the Sabah Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC office once in every 2 months.
4th August.
At the Putrajaya Magistrates Court, 3 company directors aged between 31 and 48 were remanded for 4 days from Thursday for allegedly giving out bribes to secure an advertising contract worth more than 90 million ringgit from a government agency last year. The trio were detained at the MACC headquarters on Wednesday to facilitate investigations. It was understood that the company was allegedly unqualified and submitted false documents as well as information to secure the bid. The graft buster said it has identified the officers from the government agency involved and will soon arrest those who conspired with the suspects. A mechanic with 27 traffic violations over the span of 10 years finally had the law catch up to him when he was fined over 22,000 ringgit at the IATA Magistrates Court in Malacca. M. Mageswaran was accused of committing various violations from 2008 to 2019. After avoiding various warrants of his arrests, he was finally detained after he lodged a police report claiming he was robbed and lost his identification card. Magistrate Izwan Muhammad Noor also ordered the accused to be imprisoned for 281 days if he fails to pay the fine. Among the traffic violations were driving without a driver's license and road tax and modifying his vehicle. Mageswaran pleaded for a lower fine, but the prosecution objected and requested a heavier punishment as he was a repeat offender. Magistrate Muhammad Izwan in his judgment set the fine at 22,140 ringgit for all 27 traffic violations. Elsewhere in Kedah, a housewife was charged at the Kulim Magistrates Court on Thursday with the murder of her 34-month-old stepson last month. No plea was recorded from Rosniza Abdul Wahab when the charge was read out to her before Magistrate Che Rohana Ismail. The 35-year-old accused was alleged to have murdered Muhammad Kafi Muhammad Khairul Nazri at a house in Taman Serai Wangi 4, Padang Serai on May 29th. The offence under the Penal Code carries a mandatory death sentence upon conviction. Meanwhile, at the Sessions Court, she also claimed trial together with her husband, Muhammad Khairul Nazri Mat Noor, to physically abusing the child at the same place and time. The 36-year-old factory engineer, the boy's biological father, and his wife were charged under the Child Act, which provides up to 50,000 ringgit fine or a maximum 20 years imprisonment or both if found guilty. Judge Mushri Pete did not grant bail to the couple. Both courts fixed July 13th for remention of the 2 cases. After the break, prison visit to resume on June 15th. Don't go away. Welcome back. Malaysia's online retail sales surged 28.9% in April, although the total sales value of wholesale and retail trade dropped 36.6% compared to the same month last year. The Department of Statistics said the jump in online retail sales portrayed the expansion of e-commerce activities in the country. Elaborating the decline of wholesale and retail trade's sales value, the department said the steepest fall was recorded by motor vehicles segment, which dipped 93.2%. Other industries in this subsector also suffered a significant drop in April 2020, notably sales of parts and accessories and repair and maintenance. On the retail trade, sales fell 32.4% year-on-year as the implementation of MCO resulted in negative growth in most of the retail activities. However, industries related to food, such as wholesale of food, beverages and tobacco, as well as wholesale of agricultural raw materials and live animals, posted a marginal positive growth. Foreign direct investment into Malaysia is set to recover next year in line with the revival of the global economy and pent-up demand supported by various policies, initiatives and plans set by the government to woo funds into the country. Malaysian Investment Development Authority (MIDA) CEO Dato' Azman Mahmud cited the National Economic Recovery Plan (PENJANA) as one of the many initiatives that would support the revival process.
There are many countries out there who are going to attract investment, and Malaysia must do our part, to raise the profile of Malaysia and increase the visibility of Malaysia, so we have to use every platform and opportunity that available to us, to make Malaysia more known. As well as to further explain the advantages of investing in Malaysia.
He said this after the signing of a memorandum of understanding with Standard Chartered Malaysia on Thursday. He added the collaboration with Standard Chartered will make the country more visible to the bank's existing customers and new investors. MIDA currently has a pipeline of investment projects worth about 37.8 billion ringgit, with many foreign electrical and electronics firms looking to relocate their businesses to the country to diversify production. To encourage foreign investors to set up their businesses in Malaysia, the government is also offering a zero tax rate for 15 years under its recently announced short-term economic recovery plan. The prison department will allow prisoner visitation starting June 15th. This applies to all prisons throughout the country. In a statement on Thursday, its Deputy Director of Policy Division, Hafiz Othman, said visitors who wish to visit prisoners must adhere to the standard operating procedures SOPs put in place as a precaution to minimize the risk of COVID-19 transmissions. Among the SOPs is allowing only 2 visitors at one time, and this also requires an appointment beforehand via the iVisit system or calling in to their respective state prison department to set a date. The department will also record a body temperature of visitors who must also wear a face mask and sanitize their hands before proceeding to the registration counter. Those with symptoms such as cough, fever or body temperature higher than 37.5 degrees Celsius are prohibited from visiting the prisoners. Now, after closing for about 3 months, Zoo Negara has finally reopened its doors to the public. However, visitors must strictly follow the standard operating procedures SOPs in line with the new normal, including social distancing and body temperature checks before entering the zoo. The zoo also has been sanitized, while the health of its workers and well of the animals are monitored regularly.
Kita ada SOP kita dah untuk internal dan sementara menunggu SOP daripada KMN. Jadi SOP kita boleh pengunjung boleh datang 500 orang sekali, bukan sekali masuk lah, berperingkat. Lepas tu ada berapa jam saya tak lihat ada, lepas tu nanti baru boleh tambah orang lagi.
There are no age restrictions on visitors and the price of tickets are still the same. However, from June 13th, the zoo is offering a free entry pass for 1 year for the first 100 visitors. Among the attractions, apart from the 4,000 animals in the zoo, is 2 white lions as well as a newly refurbished reptile exhibit. Coming up, Russia's COVID-19 cases cross 500,000. Stay with us. You're still with us on Nightline. Onto the foreign front. Parts of southern China, still cleaning up from floods that have left at least 20 people dead or missing, are forecasted to be hit with more rain over the coming days. To date, nearly 3 million people have been affected by the floods, with 228,000 forecasted to seek shelter and 1,300 homes destroyed, according to its Water Resources Ministry. As China entered the main flood season, a total of 148 rivers were struck above warning level floods. It is understood that the country has seen 18 rounds of heavy rain so far this year. Since June the 2nd, downpours have hit 12 provincial-level regions, bringing accumulated precipitation of more than 400 millimeters in an area of over 24,000 square kilometers. While damage has been concentrated in the Hunan province and the Guangxi province, authorities were monitoring the situation in the city of Wuhan, the epicenter of the global coronavirus pandemic, which lies along the Yangtze River. In other news, Russia, the country with the world's third largest COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak, passed the symbolic milestone of 500,000 confirmed cases on Thursday after the capital lifted tight lockdown restrictions this week. The latest figures took the country's total to 502,436 cases after 8,779 new cases were recorded in the last day. According to its health ministry, the most cases were reported in the two largest cities of Moscow and St. Petersburg and their surrounding areas. It is understood the capital confirmed 1,436 new cases on Thursday, as the numbers of new infections have significantly fallen this week. So far, Russia has confirmed a total of 6,532 COVID-19 deaths, a far lower mortality rate than in other countries with large outbreaks. The Health Ministry is now adjusting how it reports numbers to include all deaths believed to be related to the virus, even if the direct cause of death was another condition or the patient tested negative. Beijing on Thursday criticized a preliminary study by U.S. researchers suggesting the COVID-19 coronavirus may have been circulating in China since August 2019, calling it a proof of disinformation campaign. According to its foreign ministry spokeswoman, Hua Chunying, she believed the study is evidence of coordinated efforts in the U.S. to deliberately create and disseminate disinformation against China. The virus first emerged late last year in the central city of Wuhan, but the U.S. has repeatedly accused China of a lack of transparency about the outbreak and its origins. The new paper by researchers at Boston University and Harvard said they found a steep increase in volume starting in August 2019 at Wuhan hospital parking lots, supporting conclusions reached by other research suggesting that the virus began circulating earlier than the first reported cases at the end of 2019. Meanwhile, neighbouring country Indonesia is prepared to re-implement its nationwide restriction if infections in the country keeps rising. As of Thursday, the death toll from Indonesia reached 2,000 as a surge in infections across the archipelago saw fatalities more than double in the past month. According to its health ministry, the country reported 41 deaths in the past 24 hours, the most since June 7th, and new cases rose by 979 to 35,295. Singapore on Thursday reported 422 new cases, raising the tally of infections in the Republic to 39,387. According to the Republic's health ministry, 5 of the new cases are community transmissions, while the rest are foreign workers residing in dormitories. It is understood that among the community cases, 1 is a Singaporean, while the rest are work pass holders. Now let's take a look at the highlights in Malaysia's main newspapers for Friday, June 12th. Now, the New Straits Times and Harian Metro focuses on the government's decision to not send Hajj pilgrims this year. Berita Harian highlights on the reopening of mosques in green zones for Friday and congregational prayers. while the Malaysian Reserve features a report on how airlines are stuck between capacity planning and making a profit. Do get your copies today or subscribe to the e-paper. And that's it for Nightline. As coronavirus bans wreak havoc in school-leaving events, a school in Bahrain honours its seniors with a drive-through graduation ceremony complete with fireworks at the kingdom's Formula One circuit. I'm Preeta Manivanan. Thank you for tuning in and stay safe.